3 years after my parents got divorced, I ran into my mum at a restaurant. She was having dinner with her daughter. When she saw me, her expression looked a little uncomfortable. Right before she left, she pulled up her phone and opened Venmo. "Here, let me send you some money. You and your dad can get yourselves something nice to eat." I pushed her phone back. "No thanks, Sarah. It's not like you ever cared much about me or dad before." Her face tightened, and she frowned hard. "Why do you have to be as stubborn as your father? If you had stayed with me, you wouldn't be working as a server right now. Tell your dad this. If he admits he was wrong, he'll take you back and give you a good life." I just stared at her coldly and said nothing. Did she not know? My dad had already been dead for 3 years. Chapter 1. Sarah Miller looked me up and down, taking in my dirty apron and my hands covered in chapped, cracked skin from the cold. She sighed softly. "I never should have agreed to let your father take you. It's really been hard on you, hasn't it? If he can't afford to raise you, he should have let go." I shot back coldly. "Don't worry about it, Sarah. We're strangers now. Talking like that might give people the wrong idea." Her face darkened. She looked like she wanted to say something else, but in the end, she just fell silent. After a long moment, she turned and walked away. Once she was gone, I just stood there holding my tray, my fingers stiff. A coworker came over and quietly asked, "You okay?" I shook my head. Another coworker whispered, Was that Sarah Miller? From Miller Group?" I heard she's still completely devoted to her ex-husband. She burned bridges with her whole family for him back in the day. I even saw an interview where she said the people she feels she failed the most are her ex-husband and her son. I let out a cold laugh. If she really felt that guilty, why would she have abandoned them? When they saw I didn't believe them, my co-workers rushed to explain. She walked away with nothing for his sake. She gave up custody voluntarily. She was willing to start from scratch. I also heard she built a primary school in a poor mountain area and named it after her son. I think she's done more than enough. I looked up at them, my voice calm and almost expressionless. She pretended to be broke in front of her husband. When she left with nothing, she stuck him with all their debt. He had to donate part of his liver and sell his own blood to pay it off. My dad got a post-op infection and couldn't afford surgery. Meanwhile, she was at an auction buying her new boyfriend a $1 million watch. She wouldn't even pay for my dad's medical bills. And to protect some guy she was seeing, she hit me so hard she damaged my ear. I can't play the piano anymore because of her. Everyone went quiet. My co-worker's eyes went wide. "You—" I stayed perfectly calm. "Yeah, I'm her son." They shut up immediately. Then, after a moment, one of them couldn't help asking, "But didn't you just say your dad is already—" I didn't answer. I just lowered my head and kept working, shutting out all the gossip. After my shift, I went to a flower shop and bought a bunch of white chrysanthemums, plus a birthday cake. At the cemetery, I put the flowers down and set the cake in front of the headstone. My dad's smiling picture looked back at me. I crouched down in front of the grave and softly sang, "Happy birthday." "Happy birthday, Dad," I said quietly. "I ran into her today. I don't think she knows you're gone yet." Chapter 2. The next day, I showed up for my shift as usual. The restaurant was eerily quiet. One looked up. My mom was sitting in the middle of the dining room. In front of her sat a cup of tea, untouched. Her face was dark. The kind of dark that made your stomach drop. The manager was wiping sweat off his forehead, forcing a smile. "Ms. Miller, we'll definitely look into what happened yesterday and get back to you with an explanation." Before he could finish, her eyes locked onto me. That familiar wave of pressure hit me square in the chest. I knew it. She was here for me. I walked over, my voice hard. "Sarah, what do you want?" She looked up at me, her tone ice cold. "Something was wrong with your food yesterday. My daughter got sick on the way home. Her father is very upset. I smiled tightly. So? Are you using this as an excuse to come after me? Or do you want to drag me and my dad over to apologize to Caleb like you did 3 years ago? Her expression shifted instantly. Something flickered behind her eyes. Guilt, maybe? Or struggle? I knew she remembered that night 3 years ago. The way she'd played both me and my dad for fools. Back then, my dad and I really thought she'd gone bankrupt. She said she'd lost her company, said she was drowning in debt, said she couldn't keep her head above water anymore, and wanted a divorce so she wouldn't drag us down with her. My dad worked a dozen jobs a day to pay off her debts. He got so exhausted that he could fall asleep standing up. Debt collectors showed up at our door more than once. Finally, my dad went with them to an underground clinic and donated part of his liver. The day he came home, his face was shockingly pale. But even then, he gritted his teeth and bought me a small cake. He even made a whole table of food. I was starving, but I didn't touch it, because my dad put his hand on my head and said, "Let's wait a little longer. We'll light the candles when Mom gets home." We waited from nightfall until dawn. We reheated the food again and again. Mom never came. The next morning, every billboard and newsfeed was playing the same story. Mom was wearing a couture gown, holding Caleb's hand, having a fairy tale wedding in front of the whole world. I stood under the screen, tugging at my dad's shirt. I asked him quietly, "Dad, is that Mom?" My dad stood in front of the TV, his whole body shaking. His hands were cold as ice. He grabbed me and took me straight to the wedding download. When he burst in, the whole place went dead silent. His eyes were red. He was so angry that he could barely control himself. "Didn't you say you were broke? You've been lying to me this whole time? I'm your husband. Why are you marrying someone else?" His voice broke. Caleb went pale on the spot and shrank into my mom's arms. "Sarah, is he telling the truth?" My mom pulled him close and whispered something to calm him down. But when she looked at us, her face went cold instantly, like she was looking at trash. "Security!" she snapped. "Get these two lunatics out of here." Right then, the whole room erupted. The insults hit me and my dad like slaps. "Shows up with some kid and thinks he can marry into a wealthy family? Shameless. Everyone knows Caleb and Sarah grew up together. She's famously devoted to Caleb. Who do these nobodies think they are?" Later, Mom came to find my dad again. She brought gifts. She kept saying we were the ones she really loved. She even said that faking the bankruptcy was just a test of his love. She told us Caleb had a terminal illness, and she just wanted to grant his dying wish. She told my dad to be patient, just a little longer. "Really?" she said. "Once he's gone, I'll bring you and Kevin back out in the open. I'll make it up to you double." My dad was crying so hard he could barely stand. He shoved her hands off him. He pounded his fist on his chest and screamed, "You knew I donated part of my liver to pay off your debts. You knew your own son couldn't even afford to go to school. Sarah, I hate you. How could you do this to us?" Back then, the soles of my shoes were practically worn through, but I never complained. I even said I wanted to save Mom money. Mom just stood there. For a second, I thought I saw guilt in her eyes. But before she could say anything, there was a crash at the door. Caleb was standing there, white as a ghost. "Sarah, why is he here?" Mom's face changed completely. She shoved my dad away and ran to Caleb. "Caleb, don't misunderstand. He's just some crazy man. He won't leave me alone." Then she turned back to my dad, her face full of disgust. "You scared Caleb. Apologize to him. Now." That night, her security guards forced my dad to his knees outside the door. I got down on my knees right next to him. While we were kneeling outside, they were celebrating their wedding night inside. My dad and I froze outside. The snow came down hard and fast, burying us before long. "Don't make a scene." My mom's voice pulled me back to the present. I looked at the woman in front of me. The memories kept replaying, over and over, until there was nothing left to feel. She still didn't know that my dad had lost his life because of her. Chapter 3. When my mom saw that I wasn't saying anything, her impatience started showing. "This is all your father's fault. He raised you to have no manners at all. He's old enough to be a grandfather and he's still acting as unreasonable as ever." I just stared at her. It was so absurd I almost laughed. Unreasonable? Dad and I haven't gone near you for 3 years. We've been living our own lives. Is that bothering you too? Her brow furrowed tightly. "What do you know about what happened between me and your father? You're just a kid." I locked my eyes on hers. "I don't get it? Then do you? Does Caleb?" Her voice turned cold. "When your father divorced me, did he ever think about you? He only cared about his own feelings. He never planned ahead for you. If he hadn't been so stubborn, you wouldn't be living like this." I stared at her. Every word out of her mouth felt like nails on a chalkboard. "How dare you say that? You're the one who threw us out." She acted like she hadn't even heard me. "Caleb's health is fragile. He can't handle stress. Asking you to move out back then was for everyone's good. And besides, he feels bad about the hard times I went through in the past. He wanted to live with me in the places I used to stay." When I heard that, my hands went cold. Just like that, everything my dad and I had suffered through all those years became a joke. My voice came out shaking with anger. "So what? Dad and I sleeping under bridges, sleeping on park benches, that's just too bad for us." She didn't say anything, and I didn't give her another chance to speak. "Do you know why my ear is messed up? Do you have any idea how Dad and I survived after the divorce? After the divorce, we lost everything. The day they kicked us out, I fought back as hard as I could. She slapped me to the ground. My ear started bleeding right there. My dad rushed me to the hospital. After that, every time he tried to see her, they blocked him at the door. Security guards chased him away with sticks. To pay for my ear treatment, my dad worked odd jobs all day long, anywhere that would take him. After school, I collected cardboard, handed out flyers, and sold tissue paper. In the winter, when we had no place to stay, we slept on park benches. My dad would wrap his only heavy coat around me and shiver all night, coughing. Then I started running fevers, over and over. One time, the fever got so bad my ears wouldn't stop ringing. My dad carried me from clinic to clinic. In the end, he could only afford the cheapest medicine. After that, my hearing got worse and worse. Eventually, I had to get hearing aids, and my dad's body started falling apart too. He got swollen, then dizzy, and finally he couldn't even stand up anymore. The doctor said that because of the post-op infection, the rest of his liver was shutting down. The surgery would cost half $50,000, and the follow-up treatment was a bottomless pit. Chapter 4. During that time, I called my mom more times than I could count. None of them went through. But online, it was nothing but news about her and Caleb. Multi-million-dollar watches at auctions. A yacht for his birthday. Headline after headline. Finally, I took my dad's critical condition notice and went to find her myself. She was furious. She looked down at me and snapped. "You've been with your father for what, a few days? And you've already learned to lie? He just wants to come back, doesn't he? Why does he have to make such a scene?" She threw a card at my face. "There's $50,000 in there. Take it and get lost. Don't bother me and Caleb during our time together." The card cut my cheek, but I didn't even feel it. All I could think was that my dad finally had a chance. Not long after that, Caleb showed up at the hospital. He cornered me in the hallway and got straight to the point. The second he saw me, his face was full of contempt. "I've known for a long time that your dad was married to Sarah. I knew you were her son. All it took was a little maneuvering on my part, and I got her completely wrapped around my finger. I even got her to throw you and your father out. Do yourself a favor and stop coming around. Sarah and I have a daughter now. You're nothing." If you keep hanging around and making a scene, I'll make sure your father dies right here in this hospital." I lost it. I lunged at him and shoved him. That's when my mom showed up out of nowhere. She kicked me so hard I flew across the floor. I slammed into the door frame. My ear started ringing instantly, and blood ran down my neck. But she didn't even look at me. She just ran to Caleb. "I've spoiled you too much," she said coldly. "How dare you attack Caleb? You and your father are both greedy." "Fine. Forget the $50,000. I'm freezing that card. That's the price you pay for hurting Caleb. From now on, even if you starve to death, I won't give you another cent." I dragged myself up off the floor, practically begging her. I told her that money was my father's only chance to live. "Mom, please. Dad needs surgery right away. Without that money, he's going to die." The commotion was so loud, it woke my father up in his hospital bed. He was devastated and furious, but he still forced himself to sit up and beg her. "It doesn't matter if I die. Just take Kevin with you, please." Her face went dark. All I could see in her eyes was disappointment and disgust. "You've ruined that boy. All he does is lie. Starting today, I'm cutting off your living expenses until the two of you admit you were wrong and swear on your lives that you'll never hurt Caleb again." She slammed the door on her way out. She never looked back at me or my dad. After that, I worked odd jobs everywhere I could. Life was hard, but we got by. My dad's condition even stabilized for a while, with help from some charitable organizations. Until I held back the tears burning in my eyes and looked up at my mom. "Sarah," I said, "what will it take for you to just leave us alone?" The restaurant went completely silent. Even the people at nearby tables put down their cutlery. She was quiet for a long time. Her face was pale and tight. Finally, she said just one thing, her voice low. "I want to see your father." That one sentence made me laugh out loud. Hearing those words from her mouth made me sick. She frowned at me like I was crazy. "What's so funny?" "You," I said. "I'm laughing at you. At how you can still stay so nonchalant." I wiped the corner of my eye, my voice thick with hate. "Dad is dead. He's been dead for 3 years. Chapter 5. When my mom heard that, she shot up from her seat. Her face turned ugly. "Have you lost your mind?" she snapped. "You'd curse your own father like that? He was always so good at playing the victim. There's no way he'd just die. Did he go into hiding again? Did he put you up to saying this?" I just stared at her coldly. "If you don't believe me, go find him yourself. Go ahead and dig him up if you can." She searched my face, looking for any sign that I was lying, but I never looked away. Slowly, the fight drained out of her. She muttered, "Don't come crying to me later," and walked out. After she left, the manager came over. "Hey, why don't you head home for today?" As for the restaurant, he didn't finish. I already understood. I packed up my things quietly and went back to my apartment alone. When I got home, I pushed the door open. My father's portrait sat quietly on the side table. Next to it were white chrysanthemums. I walked over and touched his face in the photo. The tears just spilled out. "Dad, if I'd been able to make more money, would you still be alive?" I sat down on the floor and held the portrait against my chest. My mind filled with those last few days, 3 years ago. The doctor said my dad could have surgery, but we had to pay $50,000 first. That was our last chance. If we could get the money together, he would live. I did just about anything to raise it. One night, my mom's car drove past me at a night market. She saw me, I know she did, but she didn't get out. She just sent her assistant down to buy up all the flowers I was selling. I stood there, watching the car drive away, and I actually thought, for one stupid second, that maybe she'd finally softened a little. The next morning, Caleb stormed into the hospital. He slapped me across the face. Shameless. Your dad stole my woman and now you're playing the pity card too? He didn't bother to lower his voice. The whole floor heard him. He called my dad a homewrecker. He called me a bastard. Everyone was staring at me. I was shaking with rage. I screamed at him, "You're the homewrecker!" He took his time. Cool as anything, he pulled out 2 marriage certificates and waved them in my face. "Your dad's was fake. These are real. I'm Sarah's legal husband." I lunged forward to get a better look, but he let out a scream and tumbled down the stairs all by himself. "Sarah, help me! Your son is trying to kill me!" And then she was there. The next thing I knew, she kicked me so hard, I flew down the stairs. My ears rang like they were splitting open, but she never even looked at me. Her eyes were full of disgust. She scooped up Caleb and ran straight to the emergency room without a glance back. I picked up that card off the floor like it was my last lifeline. But right before the surgery, the nurse told me the card had no money on it. I stood there at the window, my mind completely blank. I don't remember how I made it back to my dad's ward. My dad was weak. He could barely hold my hand, but he still tried to smile for me. He touched my face and told me not to be afraid. He said once he got better, he would take me abroad, far away from all of this. He said he promised to spend every birthday with me, forever. I was crying. "I won't let you die, Dad. I'll get the money. I promise." I went to the black market. I signed papers to sell my organs. I would have sold anything if it meant saving him. When I got back to the hospital, the doctors and nurses were crowded around his door. I pushed through. My dad was lying there. He wasn't breathing anymore. That was 3 years ago. For 3 years, I've carried his picture everywhere, never letting it out of my sight. And now, Sarah shows up and says she wants to see him. I held my father's portrait and sobbed until I couldn't breathe. "Dad, I miss you so much. I'm taking you away. I won't let her find you." I don't know how long I cried. Then I heard a key turning in the lock. My head snapped up. My mom was standing in the doorway. Her eyes moved past me to Dad's portrait and the white flowers. Her face went white as a sheet. Chapter 6. My first instinct was to shut the door, but I was too late. My mom wedged it open with her arm and pushed her way inside. She stood in the middle of the room, staring at the side table and my dad's portrait. Her eyes slowly turned red. "What is this?" Her voice came out hoarse. I didn't answer. She crossed the room in a few steps and grabbed my shoulders. "Answer me. What is this? None of this is real, right? Your dad put you up to this, didn't he? He's just putting on a show for me." She got more and more worked up. Her grip kept getting tighter. She shook me so hard that my head started spinning. I finally lost it and screamed, "Let go of me!" But she only held on tighter. "Where is he? Tell me where he is. He can't be dead. He was always good at faking things. There's no way he's dead." I was still holding his portrait against my chest. With all the shaking, my grip slipped. The frame hit the floor with a loud crack. Glass shattered everywhere. Something inside me snapped. "Don't touch him!" I drew back my hand and slapped her across the face as hard as I could. Her head turned to the side. My eyes were red. My voice was shaking. "Dad died 3 years ago. 3 years! He died because that card was empty. He died while you kept saying he was just pretending to be sick. Why are you acting like this now? Who do you think you are?" She froze, like she couldn't understand what I was saying. But I couldn't stop anymore. "Did you look for him once in 3 years? Did you ever check his medical records? Do you ever visit his grave? No, you didn't do anything. You spent every minute playing house with Caleb. And now you're standing here. Who are you putting this show for?" I was crying and shoving her and screaming at her to get out. Finally, I pushed her all the way out the door and slammed it shut. But I couldn't hold myself together anymore either.
I crouched down and started picking up the broken glass and the photos one by one. A piece of glass cut my hand. Blood beaded up. Outside, she was pounding on the door. "Open up! Tell me what's going on! How could he be dead? I don't believe you." I ignored her. I just wanted Lee to clean up the mess and hold my dad's picture. But my hands won't stop shaking. The room was getting darker. Maybe it was the adrenaline crash. Maybe it was the fact that I'd barely eaten in days. I tried to stand up. My legs gave out. I went down hard. My head hit the corner of the table. A shard of glass sliced deep into my wrist. Blood poured out. The pounding on the door stopped for a second. Then it got more frantic. "Kevin, say something! Open the door!" I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. Then I heard the door smash open. When my mom ran in, I didn't have the strength to move anymore. She saw me lying on the floor, my wrist soaked in blood. She completely panicked. "Kevin!" She lunged forward and scooped me up. Her hands were shaking as she pressed down on my wound. Her voice trembled. "Stay awake! Look at me! Open your eyes!" But I couldn't hear her anymore. My hearing aid had fallen out when I fell. I could see her lips moving. I could see the colors draining from her face. And in that moment, I felt so tired. More tired than on any single day in the last 3 years. Right before I closed my eyes, the last thing I saw was her hands shaking. And my father's photo, shattered glass over the floor.
Chapter 7. I spent 2 days in the ICU. When I finally woke up, all I saw was white. My mom was sitting by the hospital bed. There were dark circles under her eyes. It looked like she hadn't slept in days. "Don't move. The doctor said you lost too much blood. If you move around, your stitches will open." I pulled my hand away and didn't look at her. "Get out." The room was quiet for a long time. Finally, she said, her voice low, "I'm sorry. I just thought it was pathetic." "You're saying that now? Don't you think it's a little late?" Her throat moved like she was swallowing something hard. Her voice came out raw. "I reached out to some ear specialists overseas. Your hearing, I'm going to fix it." "You're going to fix it?" I cut her off. "You're the one who wrecked my ear in the first place. And now you want to play the hero?" Her face went white. But I didn't want to hear another word from her. "What else do you want from me? Dad is gone. I lost my job. I almost lost my life, too. Is that still not enough for you?" She dropped her gaze. After a long pause, she said, "I looked up your father's medical records from back then. I used to think you and he were lying to me. I didn't know he was really that sick. I didn't know he—" I slapped her across the face. "You didn't know? How hard would it have been to check his records? One phone call, a few clicks. Did you ever do it? You didn't know because you didn't care. You never cared whether me or Dad lived or died. He's been dead for 3 years. Did you go looking for him? Did you ever visit his grave? No, so don't sit there pretending now." She stood there, her shoulders shaking. After a long time, she managed to say, "I'm sorry." I looked at her, and finally the tears came. "You know what? All it would have taken was $50,000. $50,000 and Dad would still be alive. One less watch you bought for Caleb. One less gift. That's all it would have taken for Dad to get his surgery. But you didn't do it. You killed him." She looked like she's been nailed to the floor. After a moment, she murmured, "But I gave you the $50,000. I completely lost it. I grabbed the water cup off the nightstand and threw it at her. That card was empty. There wasn't a single dollar on it. The room went dead silent. She sat there. Blood started trickling down from her forehead. A few seconds later, her hands trembling, she pulled out her phone and dialed Caleb's number. She put it on speaker.
Chapter 8.
Caleb's voice came through the line, lazy and unbothered. Why are you asking that all of a sudden? People like them, why should they get to spend your money? I just wanted them to know their place. A pathetic, broke man playing the victim and his tag-along kid. They didn't deserve a cent from you. My mum's face got darker and darker. You touched that card. Caleb let out a light laugh. Yeah, I had money transferred out. What about it? He always loved playing the martyr. I just wanted to see if he could keep up without that money. Besides, it was just a little money. If his body couldn't hold up and he died, how is that my fault? My mum's breathing got heavier. Do you realize he's dead? Do you understand that you killed him? There was a pause on the other end. Then his voice turned cold. Sarah, why are you yelling at me? If he died, it's because he didn't have what it takes to live. And besides, don't you think it's a little late to be pointing fingers now? You didn't see a word back then either. You were right there with me. At the end of the day, I'm not the only one who drove him to his grave. My mum hung up. The hospital room was so quiet it was suffocating. She stood there for a long time. Then she looked up at me. I will make this right. I didn't see her for the next few days, but the TV and my phone were full of news about Miller Group and Caleb's family business. Pulled investments, cancelled contracts, projects shut down, stock prices in freefall. In just a few days, Caleb's family went bankrupt. Then my mum found out the truth. Caleb had never been sick. The whole thing, years ago, had been an elaborate setup. When he got cornered, he finally dropped the act. He said he just loved her too much. Said he couldn't stand the idea of someone like my dad occupying the spot that had been his. Said he was just taking back what belonged to him. My mum slapped him across the face. Taking back? What you took was a life. Caleb held his cheek, his eyes full of venom. So what? He deserved to die anyway. He was just some broke loser. Why should he get to be above me? If it weren't for him, you would have married me a long time ago. And that kid of his, he's just as bad. Neither one of them should have stuck around. Her assistant told me later, word for word, everything. I didn't say anything when I heard it, because I already knew. She was just finally willing to listen. She didn't just destroy Caleb's family wealth. She filed charges against Caleb, fraud, embezzlement, wrongful death. And Caleb completely lost it. He showed up with their daughter crying, begging for mercy, said she should forgive him for the child's shake. But this time, my mom didn't back down. That was also the day Caleb finally said the real truth out loud. He said he wasn't the only one who killed my dad. Without my mum's blind favoritism, without her looking the other way for years, he never could have done what he did. He said she was full of it, all this belated guilt. Said she actually never cared about me nor my father. He was right. So I listened, and I felt nothing. Because I already knew all of that 3 years ago. She's finally willing to admit it now.
Chapter 9. Caleb and Sarah. Daughter witnessed them fighting. She got so scared she started crying. Daddy is so scary. Mummy is so scary too. I don't want parents like this. My mom froze. All those years she had spoiled that child rotten and given her everything she ever wanted. But no amount of money or comfort could protect a kid from seeing the ugliest sides of her own parents. Not long after that, there was an accident outside their villa. Their daughter was hit by a car and died. I was sitting on my hospital bed when the news came on. The anchor said that the daughter of Miller Group's CEO and her current husband had been struck and killed outside the entrance to their state. I watched the screen. My face didn't change. At the end of the day, she was just a kid. But when my dad died,
Nobody thought he was innocent either. And nobody thought that back then, I was just a kid too. That same day, Caleb came storming into my hospital room like a madman. He was holding a knife. He came straight at me. "This is all your fault. If you hadn't made a scene, my daughter would still be alive. Give her back to me." He moved so fast that I didn't even have time to hit the call button. Right before the blade reached me, my mom burst through the door. She shoved Caleb aside and threw herself in front of me. They started struggling right there on the floor. Caleb had completely lost it. He was crying one minute, laughing the next, swinging the knife wildly. "I don't want to live anymore now that my daughter is gone. You're all going to die with me." My mom held onto his hand with everything she had. She wouldn't let the knife get anywhere near me. Blood was already soaking through her clothes, but she didn't take a single step back. I sat there on the hospital bed, watching her stand in front of me. I couldn't tell you what I felt in that moment. It wasn't gratitude. It wasn't forgiveness. It was just too late. When my dad died, she didn't stand in front of him like that. When my ear got ruined, she didn't either. So what difference did it make now? Nurses rushed in, screaming. Someone called the police. It took several people to pull Caleb off her. By the time police arrived, my mom had slumped down against the side of the bed. She was covered in blood. She turned her head and looked at me. Her lips moved, like she wanted to say something. But in the end, nothing came out. She just closed her eyes and was gone forever. Caleb was sentenced to death for murder. My mom's assistant came to see me with her will. He said that before she died, she had left me most of her shares and wealth as a final compensation. I looked at that will for a very long time. I didn't say anything. In the end, I signed it. But I didn't keep much of the money. I donated most of it. I set up a medical assistance fund in my father's name to help fathers and children who couldn't afford life-saving surgery. I think if my dad were still here, he would have agreed. He had such a soft heart. He couldn't stand watching other people suffer. The day Caleb was executed, I went. I sat in my wheelchair and watched them take him in. He was so much thinner than I remembered. His hair was a mess. That fire in his eyes were gone. When he saw me, he tried to lunge and scream, but the guards held him down. There was nothing he could do. In that moment, I felt calm. Not because I was satisfied, not because I was glad, but because I knew everything was finally over. Later, I brought my father's favorite little cake and went back to the cemetery one last time. I set the cake in front of his grave. I crouched down and gently wiped the dust off his photo. Spring had come. A small patch of grass had grown up beside the headstone. When the wind blew, the blades swayed gently. I looked at my dad's face in the photo and said softly, "Dad, they are all gone now. The people who hurt you, the people who pushed you, they are all gone. I'm going to live well for you from now on." The wind blew again, pushing the hair off my forehead. I pressed it down, and I realized the wind felt light, like my dad's hand, the way he used to touch my hair. I stood up, looked at the headstone one last time, and said, "Dad, I remember what you said. I'm going to live well." Then I turned around and walked back down the path the way I came. This time, I didn't look back.